called chili. Are you guys, not like cold chili, but like I got the chills, yeah. So, you may not know this, because some of you are new to me, and you know, I'm fairly new to the area too. I spent a lot of my earlier years also as a singer. I was in high school choirs, college choirs, I was in community theater. I know you find that hard to believe, but it's true. I sang in churches when I was going through ministerial school. I never did it as my profession, although I dreamed about it, but it was my avocation, it was my hobby, it was what I loved to do. And when I sang in musical groups, I always sang the alto part because I love harmony. I mean, sopranos, you know, how many sopranos are in the room? Oh, nobody's going to cop to it, are they? Okay. You know, you get to sing the melody, yeah, right? But altos, right? We get to do all that blending and all that, get all that depth of that harmony. I love it. So because I have this love of harmony, when I was growing up, my favorite musical group back then was the Eagles. Now, were the Eagles, have you guys heard of the Eagles? Okay, yeah. I know a lot of people of certain generations make fun of the Eagles, but you know what? I just love their music. You know, for me, growing up in California in the 70s, their music defined my generation. I know every word to every song, and every harmony to every word to every song, right? It's this great combination of rock and country and folk, and throughout, they have these wonderful harmonies. You know what I'm talking about, right? So a few years ago, the Eagles came out with a new album after many, many years. It was called Long Road to Eden. Came out, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. And I was a little bit hesitant to buy it because it was their first original album in over 30 years. And I mean, really, how good could it be? They're a bunch of middle-aged grandfathers, right? You know, what do they know about rock and roll, right? Well, I received the album for my birthday that year, and let me put it this way. I listened to nothing else for months afterward. It had a permanent fixture in the CD player of my car. It was absolutely wonderful because it was all new songs, and it had all those same great melodies and those harmonies and the lyrics and the arrangements, but it had this 21st century flair to it. I just loved it. But what made it even more remarkable was that these four guys had been in a feud with one another for over 20 years. In fact, at one point, somebody asked, will you guys ever get back together again? You know what the famous phrase was, right? When hell freezes over. They even did a tour one year called When Hell Freezes Over, you know? And who knows what it was about? Egos, most likely, right? But they were able to put away their differences. You know, time heals things, wisdom heals things. They were able to work together to make some of the most beautiful and the most harmonious music that I've ever heard. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how multi-part harmony can arise out of disharmony. Now, I was going to tell a joke here, but I tried to practice it this morning and I couldn't quite get it right, but I'm going to try now to tell you this joke. So there's these members of the Philharmonic. Please forgive me if I blow this joke, it was pretty good. Members of the Philharmonic, right? And they're doing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And there's a whole section of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony where the bass fiddles don't play anything, like 20 minutes, right? So they decide that they're just going to lay their instruments down and they're going to go backstage. And then one of them remembered that there was a bar just right outside of where they were performing, right? So they decided to go over there and have a couple of drinks. And so they tie one on a little bit, they come back, and it's just in time for them to go back on stage, and the punchline goes something like, it was the bottom of the ninth, and the bases were loaded. Okay, right, it's a metaphor for life, right? We all want to live in harmony. We all want to live in peace, but we so often find ourselves in disharmony and in conflict. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had tools, if We had actual wisdom that turned discord into harmony, to turn conflict into peace, to turn dissonance into resonance. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, had a lot to say about harmony, which he considered to be one of the universal laws of the universe, an attribute of God. He called it the law of harmony. And as a spiritual law, which is different than a physical law, gravity is a physical law. We're talking about spiritual laws, just as immutable, just as exacting. But he said this about the law of harmony. It dictates that when we are in alignment with our true nature, we have harmony. When we are out of alignment with our true nature, our divine nature, we experience disharmony. So think about that. When we are out of alignment, we're having disharmony. Anybody experiencing disharmony these days? When we bring ourselves into alignment, we experience harmony. Here's what Dr. Holmes said about it. He said, there is a law that beats us up when we beat life up, and will beat the living stuffing out of us until we get tired of it and have had enough, and act in accord with the law of harmony, which is fundamental to the nature of God and the universe in which you and I live. In other words, whether or not we are living in harmony or disharmony is predicated on what we are consciously choosing to think about and believing about life. We cannot escape that the world out there is a reflection of our beliefs and our thoughts in here. Everybody take a breath. Because that means that until we get right with the universe, till we get right with ourselves, till we get right with everybody, we are going to continue to experience discord and disharmony. So let me share with you some of the definitions of harmony. I thought this was pretty interesting. Harmony is the combination of simultaneous musical notes in a chord, pleasing or congruent arrangements of parts, an agreement between different parts to produce unity, and an inner calm and tranquility. So you can see that harmony goes beyond just pleasant style of music. It is a way of explaining how different parts can work together in a chord to create something beautiful, whether or not it has anything to do with music. And the first way is to get the different parts together in a chord is to recognize that each and every part is the essence of the divine. Each and every part is part of the one. Out of the one, out of the unity comes multiplicity, comes individuality. But it still comes from that same one. So when we can understand that we are part of the divine, and that everybody else is part of the divine, and we get comfortable with that, we are living in accord with the law of harmony. I love this quote by St. Thomas Aquinas. He says, how can we live in harmony? First, we need to know that we are all madly in love with the same God. We need to know that we are all madly in love with the same God. A few years ago, I had an experience that really illustrates this. I had been invited to speak at a gathering of quizzical, intelligent, enlightened, spiritual people, but were not part of our teaching the science of mind. And they had invited me to come and talk about the science of mind. So I went there and I thought that I was just going to give a talk and maybe answer a couple of questions and then go home, right? Well, what happened was, because they were quizzical and intelligent and curious, they grilled me for about an hour about some of the more misunderstood parts of our teaching, such as good and evil and duality and self-responsibility and cause and effect and, oh God, the big one, Christianity, right? And at first I was like, these people are being so mean to me, and why are they grilling me, and they're supposed to believe believe everything I say? I'm a minister. Don't they know that? But then, when I really began to understand that they were curious and that they truly wanted to find common ground, I was able to relax. And then I enjoyed the experience. Because the truth was, we were all madly in love with the same God. We were just coming at it from different notes, from different directions. Is this making sense? Let me share with you Doug Floyd, who said, you don't get harmony when everybody sings the same note. You don't get harmony when everybody sings the same note. So that brings us back to music. Generally, what we love about harmony in music is that when the notes blend together in a pleasing way, you know, that's what makes us go, ah. So I asked them to reset this so that I could give an example of this. Okay, I think this is middle C. Am I right? Did I get it, Michelle? This is middle C. Okay, so one note. Harmony happens when you go a third or a fifth. And that becomes a chord. That becomes the multi-part harmony. You understand what I'm talking about here? Let me make my notes. So, okay. Sometimes, though, it was really good in my head when I planned it. Sometimes, though, what will happen is a musician will purposely play notes that are in discord with one another. Or even worse, it's dissonant, isn't it? It's dissonant. Maybe what they want to do, Michelle was telling me before the service started that she took an entire master class studying the intervals between notes and the feeling that it invokes. So having dissonance, having something like that, it's contrast, it provides some depth, right? It provides some color. It even provides drama, you know? When the things are dissonant, it's dramatic. And just when we think that we can't stand the dissonance anymore, it gets resolved, right? And the only thing that happens is that one note moves. One note moves. So as interesting as discord and dissonance is, the truth is, it's not in alignment with the divine nature. Because eventually, whether it's music or it's relationships or it's the world, discord needs to be resolved into harmony. It takes a really long time, but the nature of the universe is harmony. Yes? Of course, that doesn't mean that we always live in harmony, because we just admitted it. All of us are living in some sort of a situation in our lives that's out of harmony or discordant. We all have situations in our lives, folks, where we believe that the other person is the cause of the discord. Yes? Yes? And we believe that it is the other person, it is the other note that needs to change in order to bring about harmony. Yes? Okay. So we choose to live in a state of imbalance and discomfort. We choose to live in a state of imbalance and disharmony and discomfort because, by golly, we're right. Yeah? But as the Course in Miracles said, would you rather be right or happy? Or perhaps it should say, would you rather be right or in harmony? Here's what Ernest Holmes wrote. He said, here is all the freedom one could ask for, and all the freedom that the divine mind itself could possibly have given us. The freedom to act as an individual, and the freedom to do this, at least temporarily, in such a way as to produce discord instead of harmony, and more important, the freedom to produce harmony instead of discord. In other words, we are always at choice. We are a teaching of choice. We can consciously choose to change our note, to resolve the discord, to create harmony, and therefore provide something so beautiful that it brings tears to our eyes. As I was preparing this talk, I was thinking about, believe it or not, Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King, you all know Dr. King up here. Sometimes I have to check, because, what seems really common to me from California, maybe, but you all know Dr. King, right? When he was growing up, he lived in a world where being a person of color made him a second-class citizen. Racism was rampant. It sounds a little bit like nowadays, certainly in the U.S., but it was really, really bad, really bad. But Dr. King was a man of deep, deep spiritual understanding, and he knew that discord was not God-ordained. He knew that. He knew in his heart of hearts that eventually those notes of discord were going to change, and that harmony was going to take its place. Now, there was a lot of anger back then. And he could have advocated that the notes change to different disharmonies, to different discord and dissonance, right, through violence and anger. A lot of his contemporaries back then were doing just that. We have to fight for our rights. But he also understood that if the situation was going to change for the better, it needed to change from a spiritual perspective, from a higher perspective. So he followed the example of Gandhi, and he taught the message of nonviolence. Because he recognized that a great good could come from changing those notes from disharmony to harmony in accordance with the divine law, the law of harmony. So he encouraged his followers to rise above that discord and align themselves with their true divine nature. Their true divine nature of peace and love and harmony. He said, hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates it. Now, has Dr. King's message been completely accepted? Of course not. No, not yet. We have a long way to go to make harmony the law of the land, shall we say. But has his message made a difference? I bet it has, of course. Because it is in alignment with harmony. Think about this. I mean, sometimes when I really, really think about this, it blows my mind. United States elected a black president just a little bit over 40 years after Martin Luther King's time, after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and in 2008, the United States elected a black president. So are we there yet? No. There's a long way to go to harmony and equality, but there is progress. Can I get an amen to that? Amen. So now the question is, how do we as individuals help to create a life and a world of harmony? Wouldn't it be really nice if we could just push a button, or if we could just make sure that everybody else was doing it right? You ever think that? It's like if everybody else would just do it right. And, as with everything else, it's an inside job. We start by aligning ourselves with our true nature. And we recognize that what is true for ourselves is true for others. So then, when we join our notes with other people's notes, we create this multi-part harmony, which is the most beautiful sound I know. And if dissonance occurs, and it might, I should rephrase, and it will, we can choose to resolve it by perhaps moving just one note, one step over, and make room for the harmony that is just waiting to happen. Because it's the law of harmony. Years ago, I was introduced to a little song about harmony, and I think it's an appropriate way for me to end this, and then we've got a surprise for you here in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to sing this for you, and then I'm going to ask you to, it's got a little bit of a weird little twist in the melody, but I'm going to ask you to sing along with me, and maybe use this as you go into the world today. Harmony, harmony, harmony. I've searched all over the world, and I have discovered it is always near. Harmony.